Hi everyone, and welcome to the inaugural episode of Spotlight Vintage Audio, and I am very excited today to bring you, it's certainly not the most expensive piece in my audio collection, nor is it one of the moderately priced pieces that I acquired. Bang for the buck, money for money, dollar for dollar though, it's probably the best unit I ever bought at the best price. And it's my pride and joy. I think so much of this unit that we use it to drive our sound system when we're watching TV through the big speakers, and well, it just does a glorious job. And I'm speaking of the Sony STR-7025. It's a beautiful unit produced in the 1970s. Yes, it was part of the STR line that almost became legendary. They weren't super high power, high wattage units, but in terms of fidelity, reproduction, distortion, they were amazing. If you wanted to faithfully produce music, they weren't cheap, but they weren't eye candy either. They didn't participate in the big stereo eye candy wars of the 1980s. But boy, have they stood the test of time and become units that I am so proud to have in my collection. Not only do they look handsome, and we're going to be detailing and looking at that, but the guts of it are what really makes these exceptional units. So what are we going to do today? We're going to pop the top and understand and look at some of the components that made the unit great. If you're an audiophile, you're going to love it. You're going to get to see some units that you may not be able to see on a regular or even occasionally, because a lot of these things have been relegated to the junkyards and Goodwills. There's very few of them left in the pristine condition that this is in. And by the time I'm done this Spotlight Vintage Audio on the Sony STR-7025, part of the STR series of the 1970s, I have a feeling you might go to eBay and try to buy one of them in this series too. Don't buy the modern ones, okay? I don't want you to go out and spend your money on things that have the black LED, the black plastic cases with the LEDs. Ugh. This baby has the beautiful analog VU meter, and it has the beautiful light up dial. The exquisite silver face, it's classy, not gaudy. Like I say, it has stood the test of time. So let's come down, and the first thing we want to do is get an overall visual look at the unit. And we're going to look at it from the top, we're going to look at it from the front side. We're going to examine the case. Finally, we're going to pop the top. We're going to get inside. We're going to get the Olympus camera. We're going to take a lot of good up close video today. And by the time we're done today's video, you're going to really understand why these are such outstanding units. Okay, come on down tableside. Let's take a closer look. First thing I'd like to do is just pan across the faceplate. I do have the unit lit. It is a rather sunny day outside, but you can see the tuner dial indicator there lit up. But as we pan across the front here, you can get an idea of the simplicity of layout here. And everything on these units had a function. There were no frivolous things like the Kenwood, the GX9. They had timers built in so you could listen for a while when you went to sleep, and then it would turn off automatically. Everything here served just the basic purpose. So you can see the unit that I have here, I paid extra money for this, and I went out and I purposely sought one that had a pristine faceplate on it. And this is one of the most difficult things that you'll encounter when you're trying to procure a piece of vintage audio gears. You're trying to find something that's in good shape, and what you often find is things that look good initially, but then it's disclosed, or you look at the pictures and you see it has some scratches, or some of the silk screening is worn off of it. And I tell you, don't accept it. Do not buy it. pay more if you're looking for an investment. Pay a little more and get a unit that has an absolutely gorgeous mark-free faceplate. Now these units were produced in the 1970s, and we'll get into the technical specifications of them. But you can certainly see this unit is in outstanding shape. And I'm using the Olympus OMD Mark V to take the close-up pictures here today. And I think it's doing a pretty good job at focus on the fly here. But look at the fact that, there is no silk screening missing. And I tell you, people charge more, people pay more, people bid up more for these units, but they hold their value better. If you're a coin collector, you know that condition is the main thing. Age isn't the thing, but condition is. And people pay up to have coins that are in excellent condition. It's no different in audio. For a unit to have survived 40, 45 years and still be in beautiful condition, it's difficult, because people didn't buy them with an eye to having them for a lifetime. They just bought them and they used the hell out of them, cranked up the music, AC, DC, Bachman Turner overdrive. They really didn't buy them to stick on the shelf and hold as investments. So as a result, it's rare to find units that are in such beautiful condition as this one. But if you're going to be a collector like I am, or you just want to have one moderately affordable unit, and yes, these can be bought for $200 to $300 today. No guarantee how long that pricing will last, but these are well worth procuring and having and bidding up on. So, okay, there's the front of the faceplate, and we're doing a little bit of focus on the fly, so it takes a minute to do that, but I hope you appreciate the beauty. So we do have the tuning over there. We have the you can mix various microphones for input here. You have the auxiliary for driving a tape deck, and the phono, or having the input from a tape deck, the phono, the AM. You have a microphone input. Let's say you wanted to sing karaoke, you could do that and mix the microphones in with the music that's playing. You have two sources. You can have, if you have a tape deck, you can copy from one source to another on here. It's beautiful. You can run multiple tape decks, which people did, real audio files. You run it in mono mode. You can mute it for a second. It just shuts down all the sound. You have your treble and bass to adjust your tone. And I really like the way they have those set up with the tone indicator. You have the high pass filter to knock out the high frequencies. You have a loudness to step it up. And you can drive your A set and your B set. You can actually drive two sets of speakers with this, which is kind of nice. You have your headphone input, your power button, which I think is really cool. With the, and I don't know how well we're going to be, obviously not too well. I'm going to focus pretty good here. So, and you can see again, it's in absolutely gorgeous condition, and there's your volume knob. So, okay, now let's go around. Let's swing around the backside here. We'll let this adjust for a minute and end the focus on this. We'll swing around the backside and take a look there. Now swung around the backside. And I think one of the, as I'm going to just pan across the back here, one of the things that really made these units wonderful and allowed them to survive, if you take a look here, we can see that there were various impedances that these speakers could run. And one of the big problems that people had in the 1970s and 80s was they would mismatch speaker. They would think that any old speaker you could hook up to a unit, and such was not the case. You would absolutely destroy not just your speaker, but you would destroy the output section of the unit if you didn't have the right impedance match. And of course, most tend to be 8 ohm impedance, but the reality is people grabbed any old thing, and if you put up a 4 ohm or you had the wrong rating on the impedance, you could burn up your output section and render your unit useless, and this is what happened to a lot of them. So you can see this can actually drive two sets of speakers here, an A set and the B set. You can run them independently, which is great. You can see here that we have unswitched power here. This will stay on even if you turn the unit off. If you plug anything into this, it will stay powered, theoretically. So it's like having an external outlet up here, which is a very nice feature to have for your tape deck. This is your tape deck 1 and 2 for input here, and you can also do your recording out here too if you're going to record to another unit. And here's for your various antenna hookups over here, your AM and your FM, and there's also a grounding over here if you want to ground your unit, and if you don't like all the popping and hissing, particularly of AM, you can ground that. And then down here you can see the inputs, the phono input, the auxiliaries, your tape, and your recording out. It also had the DIN set up, a lot of the DIN plug, a lot of the reel-to-reel units use that type of recorder, and this would be your output to that recorder. You'd set up your reel-to-reel plug into there, and you would be recording on blank tape. So let's talk about the case. As far as the case is concerned, of course, this is a veneered finish on top of the unit and on the sides, but they do a very good job of doing the corner fittings and things. I really like that. Of course, I do carpenter work, as you guys know. I've done a lot of work here on the rancho, a lot of renovations, so I'm particularly keen to see the way that things fit and the functionality, and you can see the beautiful way that meets the front of the silver faceplate there. Good quality. You'll notice that not a bit of the veneer has worn off of the unit, and that's a testament to the quality of construction of the unit. It's a nice ventilation area because when these are driven hard, they produce a lot of heat in the output transistor area here, and that can this helps to dissipate and remove that heat. So I think that you'll agree with me. That's a very handsome cover for the unit, and it really complements the face very nicely here, huh? Beautiful. We hope that you're enjoying our little tour of the Sony STR-7025, and I want to take a moment just to discuss, in this series in the 1970s, a lot of these were bought by guys stationed in Vietnam or coming home from Vietnam. They'd be carried in the PXs, and the beautiful thing was the government, if you bought one of these in, say, Vietnam at the PX, or you stopped in Tokyo for a little R&R before you came home from the Far East, and you bought one of these units at the commissary or the PX, the government would ship this to your home. So a lot of servicemen bought these units and had them sent home. Now that was a nice thing for the government to do, but it's the least that they could do for the servicemen at that time. So I want to unlock my phone here, and I want to get into my my gallery here, because I want to be precise when I'm telling you this information. Let me get to that here and scroll through some of these pictures. Yeah, here it is here. They had the STR-7015, which is 15, which was rated at 15 watts. The 7025, which I have, which was 18 watts. The 7035, which was 24 watts. The 7045, 30 watts. The 7055, 35 watts. And the big boy, the STR-7065, was rated at 60 watts. It doesn't sound like a lot when these units today are supposedly rated at 100 and 200 watts. Are you going to really have 200 watts blasting into your ear unless you're some kind of running some type of ghetto blaster in your car or something like that? I think not. Real audiophiles go for pure power output. They don't care about the driven wattage and things like that. It's all part of the experience. So that was the lineup that you had there. So of course this is one of the lower end units, but it's still plenty powerful enough to drive everything that we have in our home theater and visual system out there. So been plenty good for us, but that gives you an idea of the whole range. So now it's time, let's pop the cover. And we're going to talk about some of the specifications, and we're going to end our tour of the unit itself by looking at some of the components inside and the quality of what they use. And we're going to hook it up and have a little bit of a listening experience at the end today. Okay, hope you're having a really nice website called Hi-Fi Engine, and I want to get you to right call out www.hifi engine.com. And the nice thing about HiFiEngine.com is that you can go in there and you can find the technical specifications, service manuals, the owner's manuals on so many vintage audio pieces of equipment, because a lot of people like to send in or make copies of it and send in. So they've built this vast library of great technical data. So I'm on the website now and I'm looking at the specifications here. I'm on my little fire pad here. I got the, they really talk about the Sony here, and they're talking about the one that they list here is the STR-7025, which is a few more watts per channel. But the basically the technical specifications are the same except for that output area, and these 3.5 is rated for the 24 watts. This is the 18 or 16 watts per channel. I think that was 16 I said. And what's really nice here is that the total harmonic distortion, THD. And if you're into vintage audio, one of the things that you want to be aware of, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of listening and a lot of high fidelity listening and a lot of broad range frequency, wide frequency range listening, which you should be, then having a low harmonic distortion means that you're faithfully reproducing the music. 100% total harmonic distortion of 0% would tell you that basically every bit of sound is being reproduced perfectly with no distortion whatsoever. Anything under 1.5%, well, anything under 3%, 4% in the 1950s was good. Let me tell you, especially with tube equipment. That's what made Fisher stereo receivers in the early 1960s so wonderful, because they came in at like 1% distortion, which was amazing for that time period. Okay, you get to some of the equipment and some of the Macintosh and the really high-end stuff, you get down to 0.25, 1/4%. In other words, 99.75% of the sound is coming through with no distortion, faithful reproduction. That's what you're trying to get. So this unit for the early to mid 1970s was great because you had total harmonic distortion of 0.8%. In other words, 99.2% of the sound was coming through pure. You had a signal to noise ratio of 60 decibels, which is good. The speaker load impedance, you could put various, remember you could put various speakers on here, 4 ohm, 8 ohm, 16 ohm, without worrying about destroying your unit. That's why so many of these survive, because Sony engineered for, well, us people that weren't too bright back then when we were hooking up our speakers. So it weighs 11.1 kilograms, which is what, like 22 pounds, 25 pounds, or something like that. So it's technically it's a really great unit. And when I'm looking for faithful reproduction, I always drill down on total harmonic distortion. And in vintage gear, anything below 1.5%, anything below 1% is outstanding. And well, 0.8%, 0.8% is great. You know what? We've been talking about some of the technical specifications on this. It's time now. Let's get the Olympus camera going again. Let's pop the cover and take a look inside and see what the components are that make this a great unit. Okay, come on down table side. I've gone ahead and popped the cover, and I wanted to see you underneath. I wanted to show you underneath the quality construction that they used here in putting this together with the little cornering brackets here, which you don't see in a lot of units. Decent veneer, even on the inside here, which is unusual. Good quality for the ventilation, just good quality for the construction. You got a reinforcing bracket there, which makes it nice too. So let's remove the cover now, set it aside, and take a closer look down below. The first thing that you'll notice on the inside is they sort of followed the Marantz. They actually did follow the Marantz model of having different sections all tied together here. And of course, in the very early days, when we look at some of the other units, you'll see everything is built on one board, or it's point-to-point wiring, and it's if you had to service a unit like that, it was often a nightmare because you were a component tester and you ended up just being a parts replacer, just trying to figure out what was wrong with the unit. On these more modern units, you see the tuner section over here. And if there was something that went wrong with the tuner section, you could actually remove the wiring to the tuner section that tied it into the amplifier section and control section. And you could actually replace that whole unit. Of course, you would rarely replace a tuner because they didn't go bad. But certainly the output area was known to go bad on units because people overdrove these units. And as a result, output transistors burned up, and it was very nice if you could just go into send this in for service work. And yes, people did service things back then. What they would do was just pull the whole board and replace the board, and it was a serviceman's dream, and he didn't have to worry about chasing down individual components. This has the nice big power transformer with the various taps coming off to drive the output board over here. In addition, it's supplying power to the control board here. And we're looking at the back of that with the back of the meter. And I think the Olympus is doing a really good job of picking up the internals here. And this is the tuner section here, and you can see that Sony uses the two-section tuner, and that was a change from some of the earlier models where they would often have 3-gang tuners on here. And of course, the more gangs, the theory was, the better. But Sony engineering improved quite a bit very rapidly in a short period of time, and they ended up judging that they only needed the AM and the FM at that time, and these things are extremely sensitive, the tuner sections on these. So you have your instead of having the external AM antenna, you can see the ferrite core here with the windings on it. And boy, I'll tell you, that was a nice thing, because how many people broke off the antenna off the back that would hang off the back? So that was a good move by Sony to make sure that it would be protected, and the AM wouldn't end up being screwed up as a result. So let's talk about some of the components now, because I found that quality really came through, and I want to explain why, especially in parts that tend to go bad over time. One of the biggest tells when it comes to quality is the electrolytic capacitors that the manufacturer used. And if you look here, that's the 4 barrel-shaped items that are sitting on the board. And they act like little batteries. They take in a certain amount of electricity, and then they release it in a burst, and then they take it, energize and release. And it's a control feature and a stored power feature on the board. But you can see down there probably that these are Nichicon, which is Nippon Chemical Company, which any audiophile will tell you they're some of the most desirable electrolytics that you can buy, these capacitors. and they tend to stand the test of time. You'll notice that these capacitors, they're not bulging on top. You don't see any evidence of leakage. You don't see any bulging on the side. So that tells you over 40 plus years, the quality has held true. And I'm going to show you the big filter capacitors too. Let's go look at a different section. That big gray can hanging upside down, that's called a filter capacitor. And the function of that filter capacitor is take the voltage coming into the unit and smooth that out and remove any spikes in it to make that a smooth electrical output for your best. You don't have any distortions, you don't have any hum. It removes any possibility of hum by filtering that power and making that ultra smooth for use in the unit. We're not going to talk about AC to DC conversion here. We're talking just about what made these units great. And Elna, E-L-N-A, is another one of those outstanding names in quality for electrolytic capacitors. And this one has clearly stood the test of time too. And I'm sure if we remove the board, the output board there, and turn it upside down, we would see that all of the capacitors, or the Nichicon or Nippon Chemical, or the Elna, that's kind of giving you a very good clue that Sony cared very much about the quality of components that they were putting into the units. Okay, so there it is, the look on the inside. You can see the tuner string here on the dial, and functionality is good. It's held up well. And I think while I have it open, I'm going to get the lube out and do a little lubricating of some of the controls up front. See you guys in a couple minutes. We're going to wrap up the video. One of the nice things about the Sony units is they made it easy to get in here and put some lube in. They have little, you really can't probably see it there, but they have little access holes there that you can put the spray lube in. And make sure your power's off when you do this. And putting a little lube into here helps remove any scratchiness. You can probably see the little hole that I'm shooting for right in here. And that helps to, that works that in real good. There's one, should be one on each of these gangs. There's probably on the other side too. And that'll help me. The volume controls are notorious, and once I put that spray in, I just twist and turn the knob, and that helps to lubricate and clean any corrosion off those contacts. I'm going to go ahead and clean the rest of the pots here down below. Then we're going to put the unit together and then go out to the wall of sound and hook her up and have a little end with a little bit of a listening experience today. Thank you so much today for being with me with the inaugural kickoff of the Vintage Audio Spotlight, the beautiful Sony STR-7025, circa 1973. Definitely one of my favorite units here on the Rancho. I love the elegance of it. I love the simplicity. Now you know all the things that make it a great unit. The only thing that remains to do now is let's do a little bit of listening. One of the theme songs that's associated with the Rosie O'Kelly channel, there's two of them. One of them is called Lonesome Avenue, and it's in the YouTube Creator Library. And the other thing is Runaways by Silent Partner. And you that have been on the channel, those of you who have been on the channel for a while will know, anytime I travel, every time we take off in a plane, we always use Runaways as the music that you will recognize in this song. So sit back and enjoy. We're going to feature that on the wall of sound with the beautiful Sony STR-7025. Thanks so much for being along. If you enjoyed this inaugural kickoff, please give me a thumbs up, comment, put a nice comment below, and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And also please hit the share button so your audio friends will enjoy too. Okay? You guys are great. Thanks for being along.